Hands-on horse bodywork clinics with Marisa Levitt. Learn how to keep your horse happy, healthy, and rideable through their 30s. See the full clinic schedule at HolisticHorseWorks.com. Don't see a clinic near you? We're looking for venue hosts. Watch the full video. We've hidden a link for a free copy of our Horse 102 ebook inside. Hi everyone, my name is Lisa. I'm here with Holistic Horseworks, and today we have our lovely instructor, Marisa Levitt from Australia. And we're going to be interviewing her about her experience with Holistic Horseworks, as well as some awesome things that she's been working on lately and some clinics that we're going to bring to you. So Marisa, would you just take a moment to introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm in Australia and I'm a South African-born Australian now. Um, I've been around with horses for a very long time. I grew up with them and then I had a long break from horses. And then around about 2012, I got back into horses again. And well, that's just me. That's where I am. Now, so we lived in Sydney for a long time, and now we live out in country New South Wales, little place called Gunning, and got paddocks full of horses and cows and all sorts now. So back to my roots, effectively.
Awesome. What do you like to ride? Like what style or what events
Um,
you do?
so I grew up doing endurance riding, and I still do endurance riding. Having said that, for this last year, I haven't really done much riding, but um, we were sort of hunting for the big ride, 160 kilometers the year before last, and ended up with an injury. So this
Hmm.
last year we've had a break, but we're going to get back into it and start building up again for this next season.
Yeah, awesome. That's so good to hear. Well, I wish you the best of luck in your upcoming season.
Thank
So
you.
I guess to get started, would you share your story about how you found out about April and about Holistic Horseworks? And specifically, what I'd like to know about is start with what made you want to start looking for answers for your horse and what was driving you to like find out more information that led you down this path.
So for me, in 2012, my husband dragged me out to go and look at horses, and I found this beautiful little Arab mare, a bay Arab mare, and she stole my heart. So I took her home. But the last time I rode, I was and a lot smaller than I am now. So shorter too. At that point, I had a very late growth spurt. So I was sort of stupidly thought that this little mare will still grow a little bit and we would be able to work together and do the rides together. About a year into doing endurance with her, she started developing one hoof flat and low and big, and the other hoof upright. And my hoof care provider said, "You need to have her shoulders looked at." And I went, "Okay." So I started investigating what that was going to take. Got a few body workers in, and then realized that just like with my hoof trimming, every 6 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks, I was going to have to get a body worker in to come and do her body. And they weren't getting to the crux of it. We were working on the same things over and over and over. And I was on a tight budget. I still had 2 kids at school, and I couldn't afford to add that to the budget. So I started looking at what I could do for myself. So on the web, I found first the Masterton method. And so I played a bit with the Masterton wiggles. Uh, um, then I found Tellington Touch, and I played around with the combination of Masterton and Tellington Touch, whatever I could find for free on the web. And then I came across Holistic Horseworks. And of all of them, she was the one with the most self-help videos available to anybody else. And so just in 2014, I was doing endurance rides with my little mare, and I was maintaining her with April's free self-help videos. and throwing in to the mix a little bit of the Masterton and a little bit of the Tellington Touch stuff that I could find for free. And so midway through that season, I went, I'm going to have to do a course. What the heck is it going to take to do a course? And so then I came across the whole host a course. So I contacted April and I offered to host the course. Now, at that point, I was living in Sydney, not on property, so I had no facilities. I would have had to purchase or rent facilities for her to come. But then she said, oh yeah, sorry, she had a workshop in South Australia and WA lined up already too. And she said, if you can just bring me in for the week before she goes to those, then that'll be fine. So I started looking at venues and things, and I was determined that if I had to pay for those venues, that was going to be fine. She was going to be there and she was going to teach me, and that was it. I had some worries about, well, what if I don't get people to fill the classes? Because the classes is not cheap. They are expensive. And fortunately for me, then a lady in Tamworth piped up and said, I'll host it. I've got facilities. And I went, okay, I'm quite prepared to pay for the course. That's fine. So at that point, the level 1 cost me about $1,300 Aussie dollars. And I went, that's fine. I'll host it. I'll collect her, and lady, her instructor from the UK came along as well, Jean. I'll collect them from the airport. I'll bring them to Tamworth. You can host it in Tamworth. I'll pay for my share of the course. I just want to bring my horse. And she said, fine. And I said to her, and I don't want to pay to stay there, and I don't want to pay adjustment for my horse while I'm there. And she went, okay, cool. So I went and collected April and Jean, and April looked at me and she said, you don't want to drag your horse for a 6-hour float trip to Tamworth and then 6 hours back. Why don't we go and work on your horse before? Now, because I'd done this trip myself before, I knew how it was going to hit them. So I had baked 2 days in for them to recover before we traveled to Tamworth. And so those 2 days we spent at the paddock working on Kira. And the amazing thing was I had been looking at April's videos for literally 6 months before she came out. And I'd been going out to the paddock and looking at my horse's cheekbones and not seeing how out of kilter she is. April and Jean got to her. They did her assessment, pointed out everything that I had seen in the videos, that I had seen in the workbook, that I could not see when I went and visited her. When you look at your own horse, it's like you are blinkered and you just cannot see what's going on. So they did her body work for me, and then we went off to Tamworth. But the thing that influenced me probably more than Kira was at Tamworth, there was this 16-hand horse that came in, loaded off the truck when we were there, and he just drew me. So I went and picked him. And April came to me during the on the first day, and she said, for this horse, firstly she said, are you going to work on this horse? And I went, yeah. And she said, okay, for the next couple of days, here's the things that you're going to do. Because we were there for 3 days. She said, over this next 3 days, 2 times or 3 times a day, here's what you're going to do. And she showed me a couple of handholds from level 2. So the class was only for level 1. But she showed me a couple of handholds for level 2. Because that horse, when you looked at him front on, his shoulders was out here, but his legs was in here. You could not get your hands in between his 2 front legs onto his sternum. There was no space. So she said, over the next 3 days, you just go and put your hands in these couple of positions, spend 10, 15 minutes, and let's see where it looks like at the end. And so I did. And by the end of the 3 days, together with the level 1 stuff, this little bit of level 2 work that I did on that horse, by the end of the 2 days, he was standing out. His legs were nice and solid, straight, and you could put your hand in there and spread it out, and there was space on both sides. And that there is what changed. What, when I went on that trip, we were having conversations in that car that just blew my mind, and I went, "Am I really ready for this?" When I opened the emotion code book and looked at that, I went, "I better not let my husband see what this is." So I hid the book because the world I come from, that is just too woo-woo. It is just um, too much. So, but I'd already spent the money, so I had no choice. I had to put that aside and work this through. And it's that horse that helped me put it all aside and work it through. And it's that horse that made me think that I wasn't just going to stop at the level 1 stuff. I was going to do it all. And so that's my little mare and and that horse on that one course.
Yeah, it's such
Um,
a beautiful story, such a beautiful journey. And what I really like what you shared about how you have like done the whole holistic horseworks journey. And you started like a lot of, all of the listeners, of the students start getting a horse a little later in life, and you're like, oh my gosh, what did I do? And so you just went from having your own horse to taking the class, watching all the videos, to taking the online class, to going to the clinics, to becoming an instructor, and really had, like, I can hear, it was almost like, to use a woo term, it was like an awakening journey almost. And I think too that a lot of
it
people,
was completely an awakening journey.
yeah,
It was completely because if you told me a couple of years before that I would go and do a human cranial sacral course and that I would get completely into this energy thing, I would have laughed at you and said, no way. I am an IT professional and switching over to completely um, energetic work. So I am a fully into the cranial sacral stuff, fully into the April and musculoskeletal unwinding and the holistic horseworks. But I've also now gone and done the Reiki, and I'm
right.
Reiki courses, and I'm now a Reiki master teacher in all Reiki master levels. So
Congratulations.
it's just taken me on a completely unexpected from a world of technology where everything is black and white to a world of energy where nothing is what it seems.
I think
And that is
a lot of people I've heard kind of share your reservations, but horses, they are such sensitive, energetic creatures, and I think we too are as people, obviously, but because of society or the way we are, we tend to push it away a little bit. But I do think it's a little bit, and that's where the holistic part of Holistic Horseworks comes in too, right? It's not just about healing the horse, it's about healing yourself,
no,
a relationship you share, co-healing each other.
that's right. But you're not just healing yourself and that horse. You actually end up healing your entire, yeah, everybody around you,
Mhm.
uh, whether they know it or not. So in my household, my sons did not believe in this, but now they both do. You know, I would. We've got in the Holistic Horseworks, we've got the hoof spray, right? And
Right.
it's a brilliant cold remedy as well, cold and flu remedy. And the first time they got flus and colds, I would go and give them this mixture and go, "You take that," and they go, "Ugh, mom." After about a year, even after they left home, they'd come back and go, "Mom, I need one of those. I need some of that." And my youngest boy, he's actually done level 1 and 2 of the holistic horsework stuff now too. He's just so natural at it.
Oh,
So yes, we've gone from an household where energy I had to practice. I had to beg them to get on my massage table to now my son in the UK would go, "Mum, I have a sore back. You think you can work on it?" And I do it remotely because
mhm.
you don't have to touch.
That's so beautiful.
It's just, yeah. He would go, "Mom, I need some help," and we would organize schedule a time, and then he would go, "Mom, are you pulling my leg?" Because he can feel things shifts, and I'm going, "Yeah, okay, I'm working on your hips, so it's possible that it feels like it's your it's your legs, but yeah, we can do it remotely."
So it
And
sounds
that's the
like
beauty of it.
you're natural at it, or how was that experience?
I wouldn't actually probably quite important for people to realize that no, I was not a natural to start off with. Okay. And I tell this to my students too. And it's very important. That's why I sat down and revised all April's books and wrote them the way they are. So yes, the content is hers, but the way they're written was specifically to help people like me who are not natural to the energy stuff and not intuitive to help them to become intuitive, because not everybody is when you start.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I wasn't. I stood there with that horse for that 7 minutes with my hands in positions, and I just concentrated on the horse, concentrated on what I felt beneath my hands. And all I could feel was the hair and maybe warmth and maybe cold, right? Nothing more. But I made sure I didn't start thinking of my grocery list or of other tasks I had. I made sure that my attention stayed with my hands. And so when I talk to my students, I help them across that hurdle, because a lot of them think that I should be feeling X, Y, and Z. And the first thing I tell them is no, there's no should. It's different for every single person. It is, you feel what you feel. And what we have to do during this course is work out what it is you feel. And I can help you with that. And then once you know what it is you feel when you feel X, Y, and Z happening in the horse, then you know when you walk away from here what it feels like and how to continue. And from there, you will grow. And as you open yourself up more and more to it, you'll become more and more intuitive. So in the beginning, yes, we have to use the yes no's, the pendulum, to get the
Mm-hmm.
answers.
Mm-hmm.
But as you become more intuitive, you just know and you learn to trust that. But as a newbie, as a student, you don't. And you don't know that you can trust it. And so for my students, I make sure that when I haven't actually had a single student, well, actually, I've had a couple in the early days who just did level 1 or just did level 2. My students tend to sign up for all 3 classes, and I give them a really good discount when they do.
Mm-hmm.
But they walk away from that, it's roughly 11 days. They walk away from that 11 days knowing exactly how it should feel, how it feels for them, so that they can carry it on. And then I set up group chats for the class so that they can stay in contact. And my class in South Africa is just brilliant, because they have this WhatsApp group chat and they talk to each other. And when one gets stuck, they ask questions. And because I'm on that chat, I can then also input into it. And so their education has been going for the last year, working together.
So there's
And
an extra perk to doing your classes.
that's right. Because when you're in that group setting, you get you get you get you feed from everybody else,
Mm-hmm.
and it's easier to pick up that energy and to then get to know what it is. When you work on different horses' bodies respond differently. And so sometimes you can then go, am I really feeling what I'm feeling? And you can start to or you go and you've got a horse that you're going to go and look at, and it's just something that's a bit way out there, and it's good to have a group that you can go back to and ask the question and get the guidance from.
Yeah, it brings such a like getting any help I'm sure you can is really great with the home study classes and doing the YouTube videos, but really being able to bring it all together in a cohesive learning environment sounds like it just anchors
Yeah.
in everything so much more.
Yep, it does. Yes. No, I'm forever grateful for that decision and for April coming to Australia, because that has changed my life path.
Oh,
Yes.
that's so amazing to hear. I love that. So I do kind of want to let's back a little bit and I want to talk about your experience both with taking and with teaching the three different holistic courseworks levels. So starting with level 1, can you kind of like remember back what was your first impression after finishing equine musculoskeletal unwinding? I guess this might even be like, you took the home study and then you took the clinic.
I
Um,
didn't quite take a home study. April didn't have a home study in those days,
okay.
but I bought her DVDs and stuff and worked through
Right.
that,
Okay.
right?
Okay. I
The
got
home
you.
study sort of came after. Um, but the thing that stood out for me was how the horses in the level 1, you could get to a horse that is very fidgety, agitated, and misbehaving, and just after the first day or the first session, if this is really what they want, how it relax and lean in and work with you to get it done. And the changes you see, horses with really dipped backs by the end of the day would be up and with a nice straight back, or would be standing nice and square the next day when you look at them. It's those physical changes that in the beginning, I have to be quite honest, I actually didn't really see some of it either, right? My eye for some of the finer detail only started developing with practice. But and then on the level 2, it's just how soft it is and how gentle it is. And you just have to be present and have your hands. And there is no right or wrong. You know, there's hand positions that we suggest, but the horse may need you to be somewhere else. And you can put your hands anywhere. With the cranial sacral, it's just that whole melting into it and going with the flow and getting into the flow. The thing that was amazing for me actually for the level 2 was I couldn't really feel the cranial sacral wave when I started. And there is one exercise where you've got your hands on the barrel of the horse, release the diaphragm. And there was a lady on the other side doing it. You pair up and you do it together. And she could feel when I put my hands on that I was blocking the energy at the midway of the horse. And so that actually helped me to learn how to bring my shutters down and open up. But the changes in the horses after the cranial sacral is just, it's amazing. And the oils treatments that we do in the level 2, it's the whole package. And also just learning about, it's not just all 3 levels. You learn that it's the 3 legs, right? It's the physical, it's the horse's physical skeleton that matters and needs to be aligned, but then you need to have the soft tissue aligned and softened so that everything can stay where it needs to, and how the body would want to heal itself. That was also a revelation for me through this whole holistic horseworks, because you don't think of the body as capable of healing itself. And I think if more people realize that their bodies could heal themselves, then the world would be a much different place.
Yeah, well,
For me,
your body heals a wound without you telling it to.
yeah, for me, I had lower back pain since I was 16, 17 years old. Well, actually before then. And I could go down and touch my toes, but I couldn't stand up afterwards. After the holistic horseworks, after the finishing all 3 levels, and so yes, it was a slow journey for me. I had to sort of do it over. We did it over 2 years, but after going through that, my physical problems is gone. I don't have it. And when I met April, I was really hammered with allergies. I could just look at something and it was with April that we worked out that it wasn't environmental, that it was things I was ingesting. And with that, and I used to be massively affected by hay fever, and I could eat the wrong things and my face would blow up. And I don't get hay fever anymore, because you learn that you have to look at the physical, the emotional, and the chemical body. And the chemical body is very important. Acidic muscles is not necessarily just because there's skeletal misalignments. You can fix the skeletal misalignments, you can do the deep tissue releases, but the muscles can stay acidic if you do not do the detoxes, if you do not get the chemical body balanced. So those are the things that stood out for me. In the beginning, I thought, oh, do I really have to go and spend money on that detox product? Well, yes, now I've been through it, I know you have to really spend your money on that detox product because
It's
without it, the horse isn't going to fully recover. You've got to look at the whole picture.
right. So we've talked a little bit about level 1. It sounds like level 2 was a really big game changer for you. But can you tell me a little bit about level 3 equine cranial decompression, and what was your aha moment with that level, and what changes have you noticed with the horses who have done all 3 levels?
So the first aha moment for me on the cranial stuff was when April and Jean worked on my little mare before we went to that Tamworth clinic, right? At that stage, I didn't understand all the levels, and I didn't realize that the level 1 didn't include that. But her cheekbones went from basically that far off misaligned to completely level. That is after I've learned how to see it. And when I then learned, go and did the class, it's amazing to think about that those cranial bones can, the cranial bones is held together with sutures, almost like a woodworker joinery.
Mm-hmm.
When they join different pieces of wood, they do it with that sort of joint. And the cranial bones are connected that same way. And what is really interesting for me is that this thickness of this paper is all the movement you need. And it's all the movement that is necessary to shift it. And if anybody told me before I met April that you can actually physically shift cheekbones, I would have said not possible. But I've seen it. And believe you me, the first time I had my hand on a horse's head and felt that movement under there, the first time I was aware enough to actually feel that, I went, shit, what the hell's happening? And I found myself a whole meter away from that horse's head. That's how shocked I was. I went, what did I just do? But afterwards, once you've got that head decompressed and you've got that back end completely unwound, then the horse can start to function properly. And the chemicals, the whole way of how he absorbs his nutrients changes and can then become into balance and work brilliantly. And when everything is working correct, then no disease can come in. If you look after them, then it becomes easy.
Mm-hmm.
It's not easy. The changes you see in a horse over one 11-day period when you do all of those things together, you can see the changes, but it doesn't stop there. You can't stop there. You've got to go and touch up, and give that body a chance to actually settle into that new frame,
Mm-hmm.
that they can then have proper form and function. So yeah, it was a big eye opener for me. All of it basically.
So something I'd like to touch on, because I think maybe a lot of people could find this relatable, is you mentioned how when you first started, you didn't really understand the difference between all three levels and how you needed all three to like work together. So if I didn't know anything about this and I was completely new student, how would you describe each of the three levels to someone completely new?
So I would describe them the following way. So you would do the quine musculoskeletal unwinding, and that's where you work on the physical bones. You release the things that are putting those bones into the wrong positions, and it's really gentle and subtle techniques that just allows them to release and for the body to move them to where they need to be. Once you've done that, you can maintain that horse, but you always will have to go back to touch up those points because you haven't released the fascia and the soft tissue that now continues to pull it out. So for that, you need the level 2 workshops. And the level 2 work is where we look more at nutrition. We look at deep soft tissue release techniques. And we look at using things like oils to restore balance. So that's where we actually rebalance the entire body. Then if you have done that, again, you can maintain that horse, but there's still something missing. And there was 2 students that did the courses with April here in Australia and myself, and they did level 1 and 2. They didn't do level 3. And then years later, they both came back and did level 3 with me.
Mm-hmm.
And the one lady is she rehabilitates off the track racehorses. Her and her sister, they work together. They get them. They take 12 months to help that horse recover in his body, and then they take another 12 months to retrain, re-educate. And she said, I've been doing this for years now, and with only the level 1 and 2, I felt that there was still something missing. So she came back and she did the level 3 course with me, because you need to realign, you need to release that high weight, you need to release the tongue, you need to decompress the bones in the cranial. So level 1, you decompress, you basically working on the bones, and you are releasing and realigning the bones to where they need to be. Level 2, you're releasing all the soft tissue in the body, but you still haven't looked at the head. And there's just the top line and the bottom line of the horse is a circle, and it all starts and finishes in the head. You do need to decompress the cranium. And when you do that, then the thyroid can operate as it should. And then the horse can, because the thyroid is fixed, the horse can deal with sugars, and the horse can then actually absorb the nutrients properly. So you will always have that little missing link unless you do that last level. And unfortunately, you have to do the last level last, because you need to be able to know what it is you feel and how you experience the cranial wave before you can go and decompress the head.
What was the biggest thing after learning all this stuff? What really made you want to move on to becoming an instructor and to teach the Holistic Horseworks program?
That horse on day one, that set me on this path.
Mhm.
If I didn't make the decision there that this is the path I wanted to go on, I would not have done level 1 and 2, because at that point I didn't understand. But because that horse had affected me so much, I was keen to learn more. And then I wanted to share it. And I absolutely love teaching it. Absolutely love it. It's fantastic. It's great.
Oh, awesome.
I love being in that energy.
I'm also curious, how has this, what you've learned, helped you with your endurance riding and with your competition riding?
Oh, massively. I don't get on a horse now that is misaligned. I start a new horse, I get him, I take the time it does to get his body reset, take the time it needs to get his nutrition correct and absorbed, and then we start training. And it's amazing. I can be going down the trail and I can feel when a rib is shifted. I get off, pop the girth loose, pop the ribs back in, tighten the thing up again, and off we go. Having said that, though, because I now don't do patchwork anymore. So in the beginning, while I was doing the holistic horsework stuff, learning, there was gaps, right? There was a gap between level 1 and level 2, and a gap between level 2 and level 3. So my horse at the time that I was riding didn't have all of that done. So I had to, during a ride, I would feel that a rib went or a hip's gone, right? And I would stop and I would quickly adjust it. And it's amazing how quickly you can do it once your horse is used to it and everything is nice and supple and soft. How quickly you can, it doesn't even take 5 minutes. It doesn't really affect your riding time. Um, and my Kira girl got to the point where if something went wrong, she would just stop. We would be going down at a canter in mid-flight, and she'd lose a boot, or because I was too tall for her, really, I should never have ridden her. If I just go off balance, it would pop a rib, and she would just hit the brakes, and I would go, Jesus, why did we stop now? And then I would get off, loosen the girth, put it all back, tighten the girth again, and off we would go. You learn how to feel when that stuff happens in your horse, and then you can stop and you can fix it, and it doesn't take too long. But since I had changed my whole approach, and I no longer get on a horse until I am sure that everything in that horse's body works properly, I don't have any of that stuff happening. And my horses get through their rides quite well. And if you don't do distances, but you want to do the jumps and the heights, and you want to be able to do the dressage and those beautiful movements, you can. Just got to give your horse what it needs in order to do it.
I guess my last question I have is, if somebody's thinking about taking these clinics, your clinics specifically, and they're feeling like, it costs too much, it's too far of a drive, that's a lot of time, I don't know if I can do this energy work, or I don't know if I'm strong enough, or all of these things that might give reservation, what would you say to them?
I would say to them that you are not you are never too weak, because this doesn't take physical strength. It's all intention. Don't have to worry about how intuitive you are. You will become intuitive, and we will give you the tools that you can trust so that you can move forwards and get things done. So as I said earlier, you leave my class knowing exactly what you should feel, how you experience it. And because you're working on different horses, you will also know how different horses respond and react. So I leave you with the tools and with the support to keep going. Yes, it's an expensive course, but it's worth every penny. For me, it was worth every penny. I wouldn't want it any other way right now. I wouldn't want my life. If you want to change your life, you do this course, because it isn't just going to teach you how a couple of tools. It is going to change your life, and it is going to change the outlook, your outlook in life. I had one student who couldn't make it to a level 2 class. She was feeling really ill. And I said to her, just push through that and come to class. Because in the level 2 class, every student gets an opportunity on the table. And every student gets that unwind. And you would be amazed at how that recovers your body when you have 6 people unwinding you in one hit. Something that your cranial sacral practitioner would take 6 weeks to deliver for you, you get in that one session. And it is just, it's amazing. Physically, mentally, and emotionally, you walk away stronger. But if anybody who's listening to this would like to learn and has the ability to host a course, they should just get in contact. I don't have a big schedule of courses up. I basically set them up when a host contact, if somebody contacts me and says, I would like to host. That's when I organize, and then we just work out on a time and a date that suits, and we set it up.
Great. How can they get in touch with you?
They can just call me on my mobile, 0434 782 853. Or they can look at my website, which is magichands.au, and they will see that there's my contact details in the bottom, and there is a logo for the Holistic Horseworks, and there's a logo for the Reiki. So
Great.
quite easy to get hold of.
We'll make sure we put all of that information in the show notes or in the caption below so people can access it super easy.
And there's also a Facebook page. So Magic Hands Horseworks. Yeah.
Hands-on horse bodywork clinics with Marisa Levitt. See the full clinic schedule at HolisticHorseWorks.com. Don't see a clinic near you? We're looking for venue hosts.